With his reaction as House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. We had on Steny Hoyer about 10-15 minutes ago. Eric, I guess you probably had a different take on the speech last night. It is the president. We love him. He's our leader. But what did you make of the speech?
Well, I mean, you're right, Joe. I'm sure we'll have some differences about the president's speech. I did think that sort of the one unifying point that he was trying to make was support for our armed forces. No question about that. And what's ironic is we're going to have a lot of discussion about priorities and how to support the men and women in uniform and the ability for us as a country to continue to lead globally. But I thought the speech, lacked the type of bold vision that we're looking for as a new majority in the House of Representatives. What we've continued to say is it's time for us to stop focusing on how we can grow government programs, how we can continue to try and fix problems from Washington, and instead try and focus on the private sector, try and focus on what has made this country, which is the small business aspect of our culture. Every business at one point was a small business. We got to go in and start to reclaim this very aspirational sense of who we are as a people and unleash the innovation that is pent up because of the overly intrusive policies coming out of this White House.
But, I mean, I could easily give a bipartisan speech. It would be about growth. And nobody, I don't think anybody would, Democrats or Republicans, that does really cross our. We need growth in this country, and we need jobs. But that's where the bipartisanship ends, because the path to growth and the path to jobs are seen in two different lights by both parties.
There is no question. I mean, you sit here and you hear the president list program after program of how the government here in Washington is going to choose where we should grow jobs. And the bottom line is we need a bold vision of strong economic growth that doesn't involve more regulation, more taxes, putting more money into this town so this town can decide where it flows. We know that doesn't work. And most people, when they hear and see things that don't work, what do? They say we need to try something different.
Yeah, hey, Eric, sorry to interrupt. I just was thinking of something else. Popular campaigns have had mixed results in the past. We've talked about that. But the income disparity that has worsened, we all know it over the past 20 years or so, and the mood of the country do you think this is the time is right now for this message from the president, and will it resonate with American people?
It's interesting to hear the president talk about fair share and fair shot. I've been on this show before with you and Becky and the others talking about a fair shot. And that's really, I think, the point. When you sit here and say that some people don't pay their fair share and others do, you're going to put Washington in the business of deciding that versus saying, look, all of us want to go and climb the ladder of success. We want everybody. The president brought Warren Buffett's secretary into the State of the Union last night, into the chamber. We care about her, too. We want her to have more opportunity. We don't want anybody to pay more taxes because, frankly, we want people to keep more of their hard-earned money. Now, if some people don't have access to a fair shot, then that means we've got to work on the ability to make sure they've got the tools so that they, too, can assume the ladder of success and climbing up that ladder.
Part of I guess the approach you'd have to say, Eric, that all State of the Unions in an election year are campaign speeches, no matter who the president is. And I think the Obama administration still looks at Romney as the likely candidate. So this whole releasing his 14.9% tax payment the same day of the State of the Union, it almost just sets up for this whole narrative that we're going to hear between now and November if Romney is the candidate. But I just asked Steny Hoyer, can you really say a guy that pays $3 million in taxes and gives $3 million to charity, is he a bad member of society because he's able to do that? $3 million in taxes, $3 million to charity? And I wonder, is that a winning combination between now and November? It might be this time. I read the Huffington Post, and a winning combination.
Well, I think that the proof's in the pudding and the results are just not there as far as that thinking and the policies that are supported by that thinking. That's what the president's been promoting all along. And again, what we see is these policies don't work. And the recovery that we're all hoping will strengthen has not strengthened because these policies haven't worked. So let's try something different. And that's why what you're hearing out of our House Republican majority is a very bold vision for growth. We shouldn't be settling for this goal of 2 to 3% growth. We should be at 5% or more. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to unleash the willingness for people to begin to take risk again, to jump back into the game in terms of investing capital, not Washington doing it.
Let's cut to the chase. Can we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you an establishment Republican?
I'm a common sense conservative Republican who believes in small business and entrepreneurship.
Do you know Newt?
I do know Newt.
Do you think he can win if he's the nominee? Is that a lot of people think it might be cutting off a nose, the Republicans cutting off their nose to spite their face. I mean, the people are the ones that decide. Establishment Republicans can't decide who the nominee is. Is it possible Gingrich is that nominee, and would that hurt the party's chances in November?
Well, you know, Joe, I think all of our candidates have one thing in common. They have vastly different visions for where we need to take this country vis-a-vis the White House and this president. That is what is going to win this election. If we're able, both through our continued drive here in Washington to affect real change, to try and go after that vision, that bold vision for growth, that one based on tax reform, regulatory reform, and focus on the ability to grow the private sector. That's the vision, I think, that belongs here in this country. That's what made this great. That's what will allow any of our candidates to beat this president in November, so we can get this country back towards a more aspirational sense where we're all in it together 100%.
You going to pick up House seats or lose seats this election in the House, and what about the Senate?
Well, you know, again, I don't know about the Senate. I think that we're poised over there to try and pick up some seats, and we'll predict that we'll take a majority over there. In the House, I think we'll strengthen our majority. What we've seen is coming off of the redistricting process across the country. There are many seats that have been strengthened because of Republican action and victories on the ground in the last cycle. And I do think that this is a pivotal election. We really are at a tipping point in this country, and we got a decision to make. And I think that the people of this country are tired of the policies. They see they don't work coming out of the White House, and they want to try something different. And I think they want to help us affect real change here in Washington.
Will a single piece of legislation for pro-growth, either the way you think we ought to do it or the way the president thinks we ought to do it, will anything become law in the next 8 months?
I'm hopeful, Joe. I mean, I really do. I mean, the president has a lot of rhetoric about small businesses and affording tax relief and regulatory reform. We've got those bills, and we're going to put out some very bold proposals dealing with tax reform. The president says he's for that. We're not for raising taxes, especially on the job creators, the small businesses that we need to create jobs. You know, the president talked last night about high-skilled workers and the fact that many come from other countries to our country. They are educated in our master's and PhD programs, and then they're sent home. Well, oftentimes they're sent home with venture capital that follows them to create jobs overseas. We can certainly all agree on that. If the president says he'll sign that bill and not cloud it with some other controversial measures, we should be able to do that. That's a pro-growth measure. That's part of the Republican House jobs agenda, too.
All right, Eric, I'm getting something I see now from Boeing. We got to go. We appreciate your time. Thanks for being honest with us, and we hope to see you again and a lot over the next 9 months or whatever.